Welcome, I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, history beckons as the world's most advanced democracy votes tomorrow. Still an open contest between the Republican candidates Donald Trump and the Democratic Party flag bearer Hillary Clinton. President Buhari makes landmark visit to Benin City, perhaps the last under Governor Adams Oshomole. And Chief of Army Staff blames recent high-profile attacks in the northeast on the support of insurgents by some individuals.
And on business news tonight, FMDQ recommends ways to stabilize the value of the naira at the new forex market.
And on sports news tonight, 6 Super Eagles players arrive on day 1 of the team's training camp ahead of the 2018 World Cup qualifier against Algeria.
I'm Linda Kibe, and from Abuja, the Chief Justice of Nigeria reaffirms NJC's position that judges standing trial of corruption must cease to perform judicial functions.
History will be made tomorrow as Americans vote to elect a new president who will lead the country for the next 4 years. Hillary Clinton of the Democratic Party is running against Donald Trump, who is the Republican presidential candidate. It's an election that's expected to either elect the first female president of the country or go down as the first time a Washington outsider and businessman will become the leader of the world's most powerful country. Ahead of tomorrow's exercise, both candidates have traversed the battleground states as they try to woo undecided and independent voters. While there appears to be a boost for Mrs. Clinton after the FBI cleared her again of any charges regarding the email saga, Mr. Trump has once again returned to his claim of, quote, a rigged system. Already more than 43 million people have cast their ballots in early voting. Now, it's an election some say is too close to call, but the excitement and anticipation is palpable. Amidst allegations of rigging and uncertainty, a president-elect is expected to emerge later tomorrow. Our correspondent Seun Okimbaloye reports from Green Bay in the state of Wisconsin.
24 hours to election day here in the United States, and everyone is anticipating that day, that moment when the election will be concluded and when everyone will know for sure who becomes the 45th president of the United States. Well, the Republican Party candidate, Mr. Donald Trump, has been talking about a rigged process. But someone will ask, just how easy is it to rig the election in America?
We don't have any experience with it, but I would imagine it's extremely hard.
As voters, residents and citizens of the United States are anticipating November the 8th, 2016, when they will be able to vote, and they will be looking forward to Washington, D.C., when the Electoral College will determine eventually who wins the race. Of course, journalists are also busy, their hands are full, trying to figure out how the whole exercise and the process is going. Here at Press Gazette, I'll be speaking with one of the editors to give us a sense of what exactly happens in these last few hours, and she'll be sharing her experience with us. Many thanks for talking to us on Channels Television. In these last few hours, what usually plays out, especially in a newsroom busy like this?
You can put a basic plan together. We've done that as a newsroom, but elections are unpredictable by nature, and this one especially is going to be more unpredictable than most. So it's live news at its best tomorrow, and we're all looking forward to covering it.
How would you describe this very cycle of election, considering how controversial and how interesting it's all panned out?
This one is going to be more unpredictable than most. It may go late into the night before we know, or even longer. In 2000, for example, we didn't have a winner on election night in the Bush-Gore election. So, and this one is shaping up to be that kind of election, possibly. So, it's going to be an interesting ride tomorrow.
Well, and everyone is looking forward to know who wins this election, but we keep our fingers crossed and find out later tomorrow, local time here, 8 p.m. That's when the polls will close. But then we'll wait to find out. From here in Green Bay, in Wisconsin, Sean Wakimbalo reporting for Channels Television News.
Thanks a lot, Sheol. Now, we have a team of correspondents covering the elections. Over in Washington, we spoke to our correspondent Ayotunde Balogun a couple of hours ago, and here's what he told us.
Last week, I was on the streets to find out how the early voting process was going, and from reactions I was able to gather from many of the voters, some really didn't show so much enthusiasm for either candidates, the two main candidates going into this election. But at the end of the day, they have to make a choice. They're really looking forward to this one to find out who exactly will come out tops in this election. So many issues to talk about, particularly as it concerns the issue of immigration, security, and it's been a tough one for the voters to decide. But as we speak right now, currently, going out and looking at what's happening, indeed, so many people are just having their fingers crossed, particularly the supporters for both candidates, that's Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. So the mood is really big, I must tell you.
Thanks a lot, Ayo, talking about what's going on there in Washington. Now, while the focus continues on the presidential election in the U.S., our foreign affairs correspondent, Amarachi Ubani, has been closely observing each of the main candidates in the race to the White House.
In 16 days, we're going to win the great state of Florida.
Make no mistake about this, my friends.
5 months of grueling campaigning gradually comes to a halt as Americans begin to focus on the next leader of the free world. Bitter words have been traded, and friends, families, and institutions drawn into heated exchanges over the past few months that climaxes on Tuesday night. The Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has kept up his rhetoric of fear and suspicion, saying the elections are going to be rigged, and accusing rival Hillary Clinton of not being trustworthy following the email scandals, even in the face of clearance from the FBI. Trump says she should still face charges. Trump has avoided presenting his tax records, but constantly accuses the Clinton Foundation of receiving cash from countries that support terrorism and that have no respect for women. He's gone as far as dragging former President Bill Clinton into the mix by referring to his sexual indiscretions while in office. But Russia thinks Trump is smart, a view not shared by many leaders around the world. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, has run a campaign constantly shrugging off email scandals, health scares, the Clinton Foundation, and more recently has been criticized by the Trump campaign for a song performed by U.S. rapper Jay-Z at a Clinton campaign on Saturday. She's outshined Trump in presidential debates, but has had to still cross the hurdle of winning over black voters and being constantly criticized for being part of the system she's trying to fix. The campaigns have been the most expensive, over $6 billion spent in ads, travel, and appearances. It all comes to an end Tuesday night, when the most important appearance will be an acceptance speech from the next president of the United States. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
Now, to discuss this historic journey to the White House, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by a lecturer of history and international relations at the Lagos State University, Dr. Dapo Thomas. Thanks a lot for joining us on the news at 10.
You're welcome.
And what a night it is, I can tell you. What a journey.
Yeah, very interesting.
Let's start from the rhetoric on the campaign. Many people have described it as bitter and as brutal. Is this really democracy at its finest, since we're supposed to be looking at the advanced country?
Well, I don't think the nuances and the insults and abuses coming from such political campaigns would diminish whatever value we attach to democracy, because what we call democracy is, also guarantees you the right to say whatever you like, but with some decency. You understand? However, it's just that we have a kind of high, expectation that these two candidates will conduct themselves, in a manner that will portray the American society as a very civilized society, where you would not be going so low as if it's an African society, where people go so low, impugning the character of, each other. So I think we have high expectations, and as a result of that, we believe that they should not be insulting one another. But these people are human. They are telling us that they are humans at the end of the day. That's what the message that is out, that as human beings, we can do whatever we like, irrespective of the kind of values that we proclaim.
But do you think the expectations are from our own side alone? Because looking at some of the things the Democrats have been saying, they're talking about the kind of rhetoric reducing the traditions and the values that the U.S. has been built upon, talking about maybe voter fraud and rigging even at this time. Do you see them actually uniting under a single candidate? I mean, uniting the two sides at the end of this?
Yeah, well, this is the first time that we will come into the open that a particular candidate, a presidential candidate for that matter, will be talking about a rigged system. It's not something that you hear very often in the US. And I think recently they brought out the statistics to show the kind of zero level at which rigging can be perpetrated in the American election. So, but with what is happening now, there is no way they will close ranks at the end of the day, because business will have to continue. He will have to continue with his business if he loses, and Clinton will have to continue because she has said that she is going to unite the Democrats, the Republicans, and all Hispanics, maybe Latinos, and the Black Americans. Right. I mean, the Africans. I mean, Black Americans and everybody. So they are going to close ranks at the end of the day. Okay,
let's look at some of the battleground states where we're hoping to see how it's going to play out tomorrow. What do you think will be at play in states like Ohio, Florida, Colorado? Do you think it will be experience, gender, race, or rhetoric? What do you think will take the day?
Well, so far I haven't seen anything that will disrupt or maybe discountenance, anything that would discountenance the variables that normally play out in such states. The only consistent state where Trump has maintained the lead is Ohio. He's been leading for about 3-4 weeks now with 5 points in Ohio. But the other states, Clinton has been leading 3, 4, 5, and
Is that your hope?
Well, it's a projection. It's my own expectation, because I believe that most Americans feel that she's the only candidate. I mean, she's a better candidate that can typify the American presidency in a way that will bring honor and glory to the American state.
Do you think it will make a difference for Africa, for Nigeria, whoever emerges? We know the U.S. in terms of their foreign policy to be, what do they normally talk about? They say mutual interests, no mutual friends, So do you think it will matter whether Trump emerges or Clinton emerges when it really comes down to the nuts and bolts of foreign policy?
Well, there are two dimensions to international relations, or maybe to state relations. For instance, there is what you call institutionalized paradigm, institutionalized system, which is no matter who becomes the president of the nation, of the country, there are institutional mechanisms that will address what kind of relations that you must have with a particular continent or a particular country. But however, it does not mean that the president cannot, in a way, promote or actually influence an overwhelming personal influence on the policy or foreign policy initiatives which he intends to undertake with certain countries or maybe with a particular continent. So in this kind of situation, these two variables will come to play. The institutional mechanisms will address the fundamentals of what America has with Africa or has with Nigeria, but it does not mean that a person like Trump cannot allow his own sentiment or his own hatred for the blacks or maybe for Africa to be at play in a situation like this.
Lecturer of History and International Relations, Dr. Dapo Thomas, thanks for sharing your thoughts on a historic night like this with us on the News at 10.
You're welcome.
And in part two, after the break, President Buhari applauds Governor Shomole's leadership as he prepares to bow out of Edo Government House. That's in a moment. Do join us again.